Hey everybody, this will be a warning to all politicians. I'm running for president 2024. This will be part 40, I believe. Just some more thoughts on using technology to combat crime and the things Congress have been lacking in, and some branches of law enforcement, federal law enforcement, have been lacking in, and also about some things about the news media. In particular, like NPR and public broadcasting that receive tax dollars and who don't give. I've heard so much stuff today about race and the police and this and that, and not giving the whole story of incidents that have transpired, not giving the true stats. Every day in this country, there's a million contacts with police, and most of those are not initiated by the police. They're responding to something, and I'm sure many of those are traffic also. But if you think about 1 million contacts per day and the very few incidents we have, you can clearly see how the news media wants to hypersensitize everything and use it to divide us racially and politically and economically. However, you pick it, they use it for that. So I think we ought to really start questioning the ethics in broadcasting, especially the ethics in broadcasting that we pay for with our tax dollars. So also had some other ideas on technology. We got breathalyzers, we have non-lethal methods that even when they're applied, there's claims of police brutality and all this stuff. It's like you can't do enough. So now we have a bill for more officer training, which is good, but we also have people trying to tie the hands of officers and saying officers should be able to be sued personally, which if it's a clear-cut case, that's fine and dandy, but we don't always have clear-cut cases. One of the things defense lawyers do, especially if they know their client is guilty of sin and the state's got the goods on them, is they push the brutality and the civil rights violations with the threats of lawsuits and this and that, and dragging everything out longer and stuff. So the courts are more apt to allow their clients to plead for a lesser charge than the original charges, and that's how our judicial system unfortunately works. And you also have all the bleeding hearts out there that can't seem to understand you have to protect society from people who have no regard for society and their fellow citizens. So, looking at the technology, like I said, every car sold will have a new tag, electronic device on it. If there's a crime somewhere or whatever, scanners will be up. They'll be able to detect that. It'll help with amber alerts, silver alerts, carjackings, kidnappings, bank robberies, you name it, it'll help with that. And also kill switches in the vehicle, so we have no more high-speed chases and innocent people being injured or killed in those. So we use technology. We need to use more of it against the criminal element in this country. And I think electronic banking, also cashless society, will do a lot to combat that as far as drug dealing and such, because it'll be easy to track people down. It'll be easy to confiscate cartel bank accounts, those types of things. So we have lie detectors. Now, I don't know if you could do a mobile lie detector thing in a police cruiser, and since most of the people they have contact with are inebriated or on some kind of drugs, if it would be useful in those situations. But like these domestic violence, he said, she said, all this, and definitely in interrogation, you round up some suspects, you take them in. We've all seen the Cold Case and all those types of shows, watching the interrogations of people and this and that. Why we don't employ right off the get-go mandatory lie, hooked up to a lie detector test while you're being questioned. It will save so much trouble and all the crap they have to go through to get to the truth. And anyone who claims an officer was brutal to them and or violated their rights and all these other things, and that they weren't doing anything when they were pulled over, there was no reason for the officer to pull them over, that is racial profiling, all those types of claims, mandatory lie detector test. Mandatory. If you're going to hold the police officers, not just the departments, but the officers, up for criminal and civil prosecutions, then mandatory lie detector tests for those who make claims, racial profiling, violation of their civil rights, brutality, anything. If they try and use that as a defense for whatever it was they were stopped for or arrested for, and try to go after the officers, because we have all these politicians now that are more than eager to do it. And this is why I say it should be mandatory, because in the political climate we have now, they will hang police officers out to dry to save their own political skins, and it's not fair. It is not fair. You have to have some kind of reasonable process to where things are investigated, and the laws, like that officer in Atlanta, plenty of law enforcement have stated, and plenty of civilians have looked up the codes and the conduct codes and stuff of police departments, and that under the law and under those codes, that officer has no choice but to defend his life, because if he is tased, it poses a threat to himself, his fellow officers, and the rest of the community. Now, I don't know. Do we arm officers with tranquilizer guns also? Is that an option? Non-lethal, is there a way to do that? Something else before, if there's time, before they draw their lethal weapon. We got to look into a lot of things, but I think definitely with the political atmosphere of them willing to throw cops under the bus, hang them out to dry, whatever phrase, terminology you want to, with them willing to do that to our police officers, we have to give the officers some kind of reasonable way to defend themselves against malicious prosecution, just so politicians can bolster their own careers. And I think mandatory lie detector tests in anything like that, and also mandatory lie detector tests if you're arrested on suspicion of murder, drive-bys, whatever like that, and all this. And as far as I'm concerned, drive-bys and stuff like that, whether they hit somebody or not, it's attempted murder. They should never see the light of day again. Never. So I wanted to put that out there. And also a thing I heard on Glenn Beck today, because there was that, I don't know if I forget if he was a senator or a member of the House. I think his last name was Kane. Said America invented slavery. Which, you see the kind of stuff they're doing, the misinformation they're putting out there, the type of junk they're filling people's heads with. These morons only care about FaceTime on the camera to bolster their careers. They have not done anything for the people that have elected them to office. They haven't done anything. Look at the states they come from. Look at the conditions. So you need to wake up out there, you know, the priorities of these people. Anyhow, on Glenn Beck, I was flipping through the radio stations, and so he's another one I can handle 10 minutes or whatever. But anyway, he was telling a story of about this guy, guy in his story that America invented slavery, and he goes, well, here's something not everybody knows, or however he put it, that in Virginia, I believe it was, because before slavery there was called indentured servitude, where people who couldn't afford to come here were given passage and all that, everything over here, and then to work off their debt, being servants, or you want to call it employees, whatever, of the person who paid their voyage over here. And there was a man, he paid for the voyage of another man, and he went to court, said the man that he paid for his voyage didn't do the work he was supposed to do, this and that and everything, that he would never recoup what it cost him for the voyage, and that he thought he should be given ownership of the man. The first legal official slave. The judge signed the papers and gave the man ownership of the man. Now the twist of the story is, the man who sued for ownership was a black man. The man who was the slave was the white man. So according to Glenn Beck, this is supposed to be historical fact. There was a judge who gave a black man ownership of a white man before the first slave ship ever came here. And by the way, the first slave ship who ever came here was Spanish. It was on its way down to the south before the United States and even the southern colonies were down there, to the Indies and to Florida and other places were Spanish colonies, and they had employed slavery long before the colonies ever did. Long before the colonies ever did. How do you think Haiti and all these other places became predominantly African descendants? Because before that, there was Indians there. You understand that? There were Indians there. They wiped out the Indian population and imported slaves. Plenty of places around that are just like that. The Spanish and the Portuguese, and then others from Europe, were involved in slavery long before the colonies or the official United States. And that slave ship was on its way down. It received damage in a storm. It made port in Virginia. They traded slaves for the repairs. Those were the first Africans ever used as slaves in the not the United States, in the colonies. They were not imported on purpose. They were traded by Spaniards who were using slaves all over the place. So everyone needs to get their facts straight, and we need to move forward. We need to get off of this and move forward. It's 2020. The bigger problems, crime, the economy, taxes, things like this need to be handled, and then some other things here. Why on earth don't they crack down on these robocallers and these scam artists who call you constantly on your phone? Why don't they? They can easily track them. Don't tell me we don't have the technology. We cannot find who's behind it and throw their asses in prison. That's what needs to be done. throw their asses in prison. Same thing with hackers. And I think technically, identity theft, hackers, all this, whether it's into personal information of private citizens or into the banking or into, corporations and department stores and stuff like this, is a threat to our national security. It is a threat to our national security. Treat these people who are involved in all this and try them under the laws for treason. That's what I say. Put a stop to it. Congress isn't doing anything about anything. Nothing. Absolutely zilch, zero. Nothing that affects our lives out here and makes our lives better. Nothing. Just flapping their gums at each other, trying to impeach Trump or trying to do this, trying to defund police departments. Do something that improves the quality of law-abiding Americans. How about that? Instead of worrying about the calorie intake of convicts and meatless Mondays for school children. It's like this country's gone into the Twilight Zone. No one wants to step up and say what's wrong or what's right. Let's make a martyr out of a career criminal who did home invasions and held a gun to a pregnant woman's stomach. We've gone into a Twilight Zone. Do you understand that? And, thinking about things like that, on what he did and stuff, and law and stuff, and I'm still perplexed why those who profess the Islamic religion, as I have, side with the abortionists, the screwed up alphabet people, and criminals. I am so perplexed by that. Because if you read the Quran and you know about the Prophet and Ali and the Sahaba, and especially if you know Islam, then you know the story of the Prophet's daughter Fatima. And there were those who came and more or less did a home invasion on her home. And in the process, she was hit by a door and eventually miscarried her child. And it's not too long after that, she passed away from the injuries. And they also set fire to her house. Now, granted, this was not lawless mob. These were people who were in power. But if you want to tell me it's wrong for them or authorities to break into people's homes, how can you make a martyr out of this criminal who broke into someone's house? You understand? There's a double standard going on here for a lot of things, for race, for criminals. It's just ridiculous. It's like they're trying to turn the whole society upside down and backwards, and it doesn't make any sense at all. And the only reason they're doing it is for their own political careers. That's it. That is it. They will make society worse. They will end up putting more people on welfare and all these other types of things. And they'll never fix the cities. They'll never do anything to create jobs, to give people a future. Nothing. All they will keep saying is, we're going to legalize weed. We're going to let more people out of prison. We're going to give you more welfare. We're going to give welfare to everybody in the world. Just come to the U.S. illegally, and you can have whatever you want. Just vote for us. just remember, vote for us so we can live in our big mansions up in the hills above the din. So anyway, that's my opinions on things, and if you like them, write me in for a candidate when the time comes for President 2024, and we'll see what gets going there. And when the time comes, I will file officially, and we will make the politicians take note, because if an average citizen can run for president and give them a run for their money with no campaign funds, no volunteers, no rallies, no nothing, just the people voting for someone they've listened to explain exactly what their plan would be and their ideas on crime and criminals and these types of things, and what direction our foreign policy should take, and where we spend our money and how we do taxes and all these types of things, then give a thumbs up. You want, not looking for subscribers, not looking to be monetized, not looking for any donations, anything. You feel like you want to donate to something, whatever your favorite charity is that feeds people, or helps give them medical treatment, Doctors Without Borders, whatever it is, ASPCA if that's your bag, whatever it is, donate to that. I don't need anybody's money. I work for a living. Wish you all the best out there. God bless, and we'll see you the next time. Adios.